Hello everybody, welcome to Emphy Sanity, episode 3, chat stream 2. I'm here with Do.
Hello!
Hello, how's your day been?
My day just started.
Oh yeah, because you just
yeah.
woke up.
yeah. It's currently like 11:30 a.m. right now. So, like, morning time. So, yeah, I'm not used to mornings.
Maybe I should
very
ask.
bad.
Maybe I should ask how your week has been then.
Okay. My week has been a little rough around the edges, but it's overall like lots of like celebrations like Father's Day, my 2-year anniversary with Titanic, and then just like very much like a busy week this week. So
yeah, definitely.
I'm pretty excited, but also like had a rough week like before that, before Father's Day. So it's like a lot of like anxiety and panic attacks and stuff like that. And going into this week, it's a little better because, well, Father's Day and I gotta eat some good food.
That's good,
and,
that's good.
And I got a new tablet. It's really nice, so.
Yeah. That's good. Hi, James, the NPC, and hi, Honey Jam. Hello, Jam. Welcome. Okay, let's get started with our questions. So, I guess, since you've been talking about how last week, you had a lot of like anxiety and panic attacks. What sort of mental health struggles have you been facing lately, I guess?
Well, a lot of like worrying. So when I worry, I kind of catastrophize. So when I catastrophize, it's like you know how people think of like, if I fail this test, I'm gonna fail school. Then if I fail school, I'm not gonna go to college.
Definitely.
And if I don't go to college, I'm not gonna get a job, and then I'm gonna be homeless. It's like that type of thing. I got a lot of cognitive distortions when it comes to what's it called? Anxiety, because because anxiety for me is like spirals. It comes in and it's just like you can't stop spiraling. Like it's like you fall down a huge rabbit hole. It's like it's worse than going through your search history. It's like it's like that bad. But like overall it's like spiraling is like constant and it just falls in and like you can't stop catastrophizing, and then you think of ways to fix it, and then it's like, well, is it really gonna work? And then it just like, yeah.
It just keeps going.
It keeps going.
Yeah. What about emotional struggles?
Well, I've been, other than worrying, like emotional struggles, probably the emotional struggles is kind of, I feel tightened, if that makes sense. Like
tense?
When I'm tense. When I'm anxious, I feel very claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of like I'm bind to a mindset, and that's not healthy. Like so when it comes to doing like practices to fix that, it's very like hard for me to like remove myself from that mindset.
Yeah. You kind of get stuck in there almost. Yeah. So how does this affect your mental health?
It affects me in multiple ways. Well, for one, like college and like before that high school, I had accommodations. I have mental health disability, if that makes sense. So I had an IEP. First I had a 504 plan, then I had an IEP, then I have accommodations in college. I don't really know what it's called. But overall, like I had like help for like I had extra time to go outside, like 5 minutes, like a break so I could like take a breather, or like in college I got note takers and like devices that help me focus and like take notes without worrying. And I have like accommodations from professors. It's anxiety affects me so much in my education, and it also affects me in relationships. A lot of relationships that I've been in have been like a spiral of like, I have anxious attachment. So
yeah. Would
when
you
it comes
like
to
to describe that?
yeah, anxious attachment is kind of like uh it's kind of like you're worrying if they will leave, or if you're doing something wrong, or it's always about you and it's never about them. So, and if it is about them, then you're like, what do I do? And you're like kind of like stuck. It's a
Yeah.
lot about like that feeling stuck, that binding mentality to like anxiety, and that also like, for me, I have fear of asking for help, like a fear of rejecting that help. If I ask for help, I'll be rejected. And when I'm in relationships, it's like I've been rejected at first, but if I'm in the relationship, I'm like, ah, shit, like I gotta really like hold it in and like be more meticulous about how I handle things with other people. So
Okay, how do you try to cope with such issues? Typically.
Well, I have medications that I take. So like I got a new one called Ativan, and it's kind of like similar to like, okay, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about like medications, but like it's a little similar to Xanax, and it's like fast acting. So if I'm ever having like a huge panic attack, I'll be like, okay, I gotta take this med, and then it'll calm me down. And then after that, I take more steps, like coping mechanisms. Like for me, I usually go in a dark room and I kind of just like go in under the covers and just like sit in it, which is kind of like, or I listen to music while that is happening. So I sit in a dark room, I kind of like get in the covers, and I just like slowly just like let myself like sensory like remove myself from like the elements for a little bit. I also do a lot of like CBT and DBT exercises. So like CBT is like cognitive distortion, not cognitive cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of like reworking your brain. So the process behind cognitive behavioral therapy is a lot of like like your thoughts affect your feelings, affect your actions.
Yeah.
And so when you're reworking your thoughts, it affects everything else in the line. So like if you affect your thoughts, it affects your feelings and then your actions. So most of the time you have to work backwards. So you have to affect what you're doing, and then you affect what you're feeling, and then you affect what your thoughts are. That's how I do it, at least. I was trained this way. I've been to like many like PHPs, like, and residentials and psych wards, you know. So like a lot of like things I've learned while being at those places helped me understand like that. Took me a long time, but understanding how to help with anxiety, because anxiety is my biggest issue, despite, you know, like all the other stuff I have, but anxiety is like the biggest one because it affects every portion of my life.
Yeah, so it's like a generalized like anxiety.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a form of anxiety too, but it's very different. It's not really general. It's more social anxiety. I've had to work on that a lot personally. And some of it's just learning with like autism, just like how to interact with people in an acceptable way, and like learning small talk and things like that, and like forcing myself to actually talk to people, using those skills. And that's how I cope typically. And also doing things like trying to chat by text instead of calling, because that makes me anxious. So do you feel successful at handling your issues, specifically anxiety?
Good question. Yes and no. I think that sometimes I'm successful and sometimes I'm not. Like last week was like super rough, so I just wasn't able to like do it on my own. I feel like if I overall, it's like I couldn't ask. I struggled to ask for help, but eventually I did.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did, it was very quick. Like, it was just like, hey, I need you right now. Like, can you please like help me out, like calm me down? And my mom like came in. She was like, okay, what's going on? And I was like panicking and like freaking out. I was like on the floor. And she was like, okay, well, let's lay down, like breathe, and she gave me water, and it was very like quick, and she would like give me like pressure, you know, like squeezing my arm like softly, and it would like help me like kind of like ground myself into like reality, because grounding is like very helpful in anxiety because it kind of removes you from whatever you're worrying about and takes you to the present. And even if the present's struggling, at least you're not anxious about whatever's on your head, and you're more focused in like what's going on around you. So you're more like mindful of like what is happening.
Yeah, it's really important that you have a support group. I feel like that's really good that you have people that you can rely on in an emergency.
I think I'm very like privileged in that sense. Like having mental health issues, like being known in my family for like since I was 11 is like very helpful in a way, I guess. It took me a long time to develop that support group, but that over time it kind of like took me a really long time. Like I didn't have like therapists would like drop me, and like I would like be like, oh, why? And they're like, you're too much, or I'm retiring, or like whatever. And then but overall it was just like the support that I have now is very, very much like the work that I've made up to this point.
All right, let's see. And what are ways we can raise awareness for such issues? How do you think we could raise awareness for things like anxiety?
I feel like if media like shows or like YouTube videos, not even like commentary, more like analysis, like film analysis, or like just like short films of like anxiety could really help, because that way it's in a digestible form, and in a way that's like consumable for people, while it's also educational. So I learned a lot of stuff based on just like things I watch, like shows or something. My favorite representation of anxiety currently, well, this one's more PTSD, but it shows like anxiety or panic attacks and anxiety attacks pretty well. Castlevania's Nocturne, what's his name? Richter, when he sees the person who killed his mother, and he runs away and has a panic attack near the lake. And that really spoke to me in a way, and kind of showed that he experienced the same thing I did, and that was very relatable in a way.
Yeah.
And even though it got a lot of hate for no reason whatsoever, I think that Richter, being a character that has PTSD and anxiety over like this person, is very relatable to me, and also can spread awareness in regards to anxiety and PTSD.
Yeah, so definitely media, I think, would be a good like way to raise awareness. So like seeing it and stuff like that. Is awareness for this important?
Yeah, I mean, like everyone's got anxiety nowadays, especially since the post-COVID era.
Yeah.
Like, especially like if you were isolated for that long time, you're gonna like develop anxiety, especially like social anxiety, if you're like, I don't know how to interact with people anymore because of COVID, or like it can be any multitude of reasons, and that's okay, you know. I think that if you're if you're struggling, like always ask for help, whether that be a friend, if you got any support, like any support, like it can be like a helpline. Like I went to a helpline last week, and even if I have a huge support group, sometimes it's good to get a third opinion. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really am like pro healing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I love learning new things about mental health because it's one of my favorite subjects.
Same for me.
Yeah.
I enjoy learning about it and trying to spread awareness in my own ways, trying to help people. It looks like we have some agrees in the chat that yes, it's important to be aware of these issues. So that's good to hear. How can we be safe and supported when dealing with these struggles?
Okay. Now for me, I can only speak from my experience.
Yes.
Since I have...
How can we be safe and supported when dealing with these struggles?
Safety is very subjective.
Yes.
Not really subjective, but it's very depending on like your situation. But in my situation, I just ask my mom or ask my boyfriend, like, hey, can you like FaceTime me, or like, hey, can you like my mom actually like takes breaks from work if I'm having a really rough night, so she just like makes sure to monitor me. But overall, like how you can be safe, or like how the viewers can be safe, I'd say like if you're doing self-soothing techniques like tapping your shoulders, or squeezing your shoulders, like it's very like soft. Like I wouldn't recommend rocking that much, like rocking your like going back up like back and forth, because that actually makes me more anxious. I don't know why, but overall, like when I'm thinking of how to be safe, it's very much like make sure that if you're in public, you run to the restroom. I don't know how to tell you. This has happened to me multiple times. I go to the restroom, I ask for like, hey, can I go to the restroom if you're in school? Or like, I just dip and I just go to the restroom for a quick sec, get in a stall, and I just like do my soothing exercises there. And that's for safety. For being supported, I'd say probably always get a second brain. So this is what I like to call a second brain, is like getting a second opinion, or third party opinion, is very important. You'll always want someone to battle your thoughts like for you, and sometimes to help you like guide you out of that like spiral. When I'm like struggling with anxiety, immediately I go to Tanic, and he's like, "What the fuck are you talking about, girl?" And I'm just like, you know me. He's like, no, I do know you, and that's why every time your anxiety is going on, it's like a pattern. And I'm like, yeah. But yeah, definitely like when I'm anxious, it's like I need a second person with me, or third, or fourth, or fifth, whatever.
So generally, you would say if you're in public, to be safe, try to find a place that you can not necessarily be alone, but somewhere safer, I guess. Yeah. Somewhere that you can do your exercises and process things, and then find like for support, find a second person at least that you can trust.
One other thing to add is when you're doing self-soothing exercises, it's very important that it's also good to just like take a deep breath just out of nowhere. It doesn't even have to be when you're anxious. It can be like deep breaths, just one or like two, I don't care how many you do, but just take a deep breath and look around you. Just like look, and then like name, like I don't know, like we're looking around me right now, I see my Lego flowers, like just like take a deep breath and like looking at something and be like, oh, that's cool. Just that's what my therapist always tells me, like just look around you and take a deep breath and appreciate what's around you for like 1 second, and then if you keep doing that daily, it gets so much better for you.
Yeah, I've heard that breathing exercises like counting your breaths, counting breathing out and stuff like that.
Square breathing.
Yeah, square breathing is pretty good for anxiety, especially like panic attacks where you know you're hyperventilating and whatnot. It's also good to like what you said with seeing around you. One thing is like counting how many like red objects, how many like orange objects, things like things that can try to distract you from the like anxious thoughts that you're feeling and like distract you from just panicking. I feel like are also very helpful that I've been taught from my therapist.
Yeah.
So let's see. What PTSD or anxiety triggers do you see are common within yourself or others?
For me, it's a lot of like what people are thinking and also like my future. So, triggers specifically would probably be like a conversation I had a couple seconds ago or something, and then I'd like spiral into a whole thing about it. Or like if I feel like I did really shitty on something, like a test or a stream, I'd be like, oh shit, should I quit? Or oh shit, should I do something different? Or oh, should I change something up? Should I do this? Should I do that? And it's like very spirally. A lot of things are like the difference between depression and anxiety is depression is about past and anxiety is about the future.
Yeah.
So wanting to get to the present is very difficult if you have depression and anxiety.
Yeah. I struggle with both. I know
Yeah.
for me, I get depressed about the future too, but it's very different. It's because of my anxiety towards like the future and stuff. I know like for me, I mostly get like social anxiety like triggered by like things like calls. If I have to do like ordering my medication, I can't do that because I get so anxious about the idea of like, oh, what if the automatic system transfers me to a caller and then like I have to talk to someone and then I don't know what to talk about, or like I get anxious like entering VC. I get like I have to like prepare myself. I have to do a countdown every time, and then things like that I know trigger me. What about like your PTSD? Would you like to talk about that or?
Yeah. PTSD is like, in a way, it's like anxiety in the way that it has panic attacks too.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to pair that with anxiety today. PTSD is different from anxiety. It's not an anxiety disorder, so it's gonna be different. And PTSD feels like anxiety, but like about the past, and it's like heightened. Like it's like your whole mind gets like taken over by like your PTSD. Like trauma is like all wrapped around it. Like your mind is like wired differently when you're traumatized than when you're not. So when I'm going through like some episode or something, it's very related to something that happened in the past. So when I'm like thinking of like, oh, I went through this, and then it's like, oh shit, I went through this. It's the emotions between them are like anxiety, fear, and like something's gonna happen. And it's like something's gonna happen again. And it's gonna like, it doesn't even matter if it's like so far in the past, it's gonna still affect you now, and it's going to like affect you mentally rather than in reality. And that's why grounding exercises are so important for PTSD and anxiety. Is because when you're when you're having anxiety, it's like you can't really like your mind is like, your mindset changes. Same with PTSD, your mindset changes. So taking that mindset and like putting it to the side for now, compartmentalizing it, And then like bring yourself to the present is very important, I think, in PTSD too.
Yeah, definitely. Like I noticed, like you were talking about, like how a lot of it has to do with the future and like the past. So like you said, it's hard to bring yourself in the present.
Sure.
Let's see. So what about you guys in chat? Do you guys have any struggles with anxiety or PTSD, and how do you guys handle it? Or would you like any advice? Monique says going to the doctors alone. Yeah, that definitely is something that scares me. Mostly because I don't know what to do. For me, that's more of like an autism thing, which we can talk about in another episode. But like I have anxiety regarding like talking, like not knowing what to do and like how to do it. So things like going to the doctors are very difficult. James the NPC says, I would advise breathing. Yes, definitely. Breathing exercises are a very good way to help with like anxiety, to focus on something else. Let's see. I had talked about this in another thing, but oh, yeah, calling my grandma or dad for the doctors. Yeah, for me, I always have my mom take me because I can't really drive, but like she has to help me like what to do. Like I have to prepare a script in my head beforehand.
Yeah.
I just learned the counting thing from y'all though, and not gonna lie, it sounds fun. Yeah, it's pretty satisfying, honestly. It's like making lists I enjoy, so if it's something like enjoyable, that's good too. But definitely try using that next time you feel anxious. Yeah. I talked about... Oh, continue.
Okay. I think that breathing exercises, when I was in a residential facility, I was like the expert of like breathing exercises because I knew so much about like breathing exercises. So I'd like, there was this, I was the adolescent unit when I was there. So there was a lot of like, you know, teenagers. And there was like this like really young, like short stack lady, and she was like really panicking. She was like freaking out that everyone doesn't like her in the group, in like the whole residential facility, and she was like, everyone's like hates me, and she like, I don't like this anymore, and I want to go home, and I don't want to be around you guys because like you all hate me and stuff like that. And then I came in and I was like, okay, want to do some like rainbow breathing or like whale breathing? We can do those. And she's like, but you hate me. I'm like, no, I mean, like, sure, if you think so, but I don't. And like, let's just do some breathing exercises together. And then once we did, it really helped out in so many ways because when she did it, she was like, she instantly calmed down and she was like, oh shit, I was being kind of like, I was overthinking it, and I was like, yeah, that happens to me too.
Maybe we can talk about some of the dangers of like PTSD and anxiety, and like ways to handle other people dealing with it.
We could also go into causes of like anxiety and PTSD. Yeah. So the first one was, sorry, my memory's like shit today.
Oh, my memory's bad too. So like, hold on, I need to remember now too. So it was something along the lines of the dangers of anxiety and PTSD and how to handle other people dealing with those issues.
Okay. So dangers of anxiety in particular is really that you'll do something rash. Like, you might be not focused on your present, so in turn, you do something in the present that you wouldn't do if you were grounded. So, for example, if you're really anxious and you're like in the kitchen and you're grating some cheese, and it's like you're so tense in your body that so this goes back to CBT. If you're you're doing something, your action is like grating some cheese or something, and then your thoughts are like, I'm so anxious about my test tomorrow. You start grating cheese a little faster, and you accidentally cut yourself, right?
Yeah.
The reason why the feelings behind it is like dependent on the thoughts and the action. So when you're like thinking about it, like when you're thinking about like, oh, my test tomorrow is so like it makes me so anxious, and like I can't believe I'm gonna fail it, like I didn't study or something like that. I didn't study enough. It's like you start your body reacts to that. Your emotions, and I'll get into this, like it's a PTSD, right? When you are traumatized or when you're anxious, your body reacts. It's not just your emotions, not just your head, it's your whole body. Like when I'm anxious, my whole body tenses up, my neck hurts, I start fidgeting, I start like bouncing my leg, or like, you know, things like that. And it's not just your head, it's your whole like nervous system, and it's your whole brain, it's your whole muscles, it's like everything. So forgot the question. But it's okay.
Yeah, the dangers.
Yeah, but that's the danger. Like it's the rash actions that you might do when you're anxious, because you're not thinking straight. Like you might be thinking really dangerously, because like, if I fail this test, I'm gonna be like homeless or something. And what am I gonna do? And then you might like do something completely out of the park in order to like sort of save yourself from this like catastrophizing mindset.
I know for me, when I was little, for instance, my mom said that I used to literally get so like anxious and scared of being like left at school that I would literally run into the street to try to catch her, which is a danger in itself. I have the tendency to wander, so when I'm anxious it turns into running away, and that can be dangerous because you can end up in an unsafe place. You can end up like surrounded by like people that you don't know and like can't trust. It can be dangerous because and we have in the chat, okay, when I'm anxious, I like to put up a very pumped up song and start dancing and singing loud if I'm alone. Either that or I play party games with my friends at the bar I go to. That's a good distraction, playing party games, and that's also a very good way of like letting out that anxious energy through singing and through a safe action, I guess. Yeah. And then the other question I had, okay, what was the other question? I need to think.
Causes.
Yeah, the causes of anxiety. For me, it's social anxiety. So definitely like dealing with people I don't really know, and in situations where I have to interact with people, like asking for help, especially if it's someone I don't know. What about for you?
A lot of it is dependent on my PTSD. A lot of my PTSD is like tied to my anxiety.
Yeah.
So most of my anxiety stuff is related to my PTSD. So when it comes to like my anxiety, it's like tied to my trauma. So if I'm for example scared of like a car crash, right? I would be terrified of like going on in the car like at all. So I kind of have a fear of cars, I have nightmares of cars.
Oh,
like,
same.
You know, yeah. So yeah, like that's just an example of like how I saw a guy do say like what's that, run them over, and then talking about cars. But yeah, like overall it's just very
no one give guy a
watching
lawnmower.
Okay. But yeah, the causes that I have are primarily trauma based. So I don't know what I get. Oh, I get a lot of like. So I got bullied in high school, and when I got bullied in high school, it was a lot of like mental health related like bullying. So since I was so anxious, they'd bully me for that, or they'd bully me for skipping school so much, or like they'd bully me for leaving class so early, or being in like special education classes. And then I'd be really ashamed and embarrassed, and that would make me anxious to go to school. So it's very like trauma based anxiety is kind of like what I kind of call it, but I know that's not really a term.
Yeah, I know for me, another situation was I was bullied in middle school, and a lot of that had to do with how I handled my anxiety, because I was always afraid of being around people, that I would become almost like spiky. I would push people away, and I would also become a people pleaser at the same time. So
me too.
So that's how I got bullied, was because at any time like they showed any like sign of like give me your phone or something, I'd be like, okay, here's my phone. And like literally just let them step on over me because I was so anxious of something worse happening.
Yeah.
So like that's what happened. Ganu, you're not getting my phone.
You know how to say no now.
Yes. Well, somewhat. I'm still working on it. It's not perfect, but because nowadays a lot of my no is like, I don't know, I'm not sure. It's still not like fully saying no when I should be. Like usually it's like, I don't think that's a good idea, I don't know, maybe not. And like for instance, I'm working on it with my boyfriend. So like if like we want to go somewhere and I kind of don't want to, a lot of times I end up saying like, I don't know, I guess. And then he's like, just tell me no, and then I'm like, okay. No.
Yeah. I get the same thing. I every time I'm like with Tanik and we're just like watching a show, I'd be like, no man, I'm not really feeling this. Like, he's like, okay, we'll watch something else. I'm like, but if you like
don't have to.
Yeah, like, we don't have to. Like, if you want to, we can watch it. I'll just probably go to sleep.
That's exactly what happens with me. I'm like, okay, sure. Even though I don't want to.
I'll just sit over here and just like draw or something while he's like watching. I'm like, it's not fun if you're not watching with me. Yeah.
Hide in his backpack so he can bring you places? What? I'm so confused. Anyway.
Yeah, me too.
Let's see. Because I feel like we didn't talk about PTSD enough. I feel like... Yeah, so...
we can go back to other questions.
Yeah, we can go back. So, like... Let's see. How does it generally, like, affect your mental health? Let's start over, like, up there.
Okay. PTSD affects me, like, mainly mind-based, not really, like, action, you know? Like, not really, like, what happens, like, in reality does not happen often to me, which is kind of rare, I'd say, because most people actually have, like, things happen to them because of their PTSD, like, in reality, because, like, they have panic attacks that are really severe, or, like, flashbacks that are really, like, you know, like, they get really in that moment, like, they go back, like, it's called a flashback for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, you go back to the past in your mind, and then it affects your reality. So it affects me in my relationships a lot. So I've had multiple bad relationships, as I'm sure many people have, or some, I don't know. But when it came to my relationships, the way that PTSD affects it is it makes me think that they're the person that I was dating before, and that is a lot of issues. That's very fucked up to think. And it's like, you're doing this again. They're like, what am I doing? Like, I never did this before. And then I'm like, no, like, and then I wouldn't say their name, but I'd mention an action that a previous person did that I've like, and then I'd be like, oh shit, that's not you. And that's like yeah, it's really fucked up to think about. But yeah, like, and also like it affects like how the other, like a new person comes in your life and you're like, you fully expect this person to be like the last, and it's like why, you know, they're a completely new individual person. They are not the other person, so they're not going to act the same, they're not going to do the same things, but if they do, it's going to have different intentions because they're a whole different person.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how rationalizing your thoughts are like, but PTSD is so like, it rewires your brain, and I've heard this a lot because it was a whole last lesson in my like PHP, which is like, I don't know what it's called, I don't know the acronym, but overall it's like my relationships often are affected by my trauma in like the past, because my trauma is basically like because of my parents or because of like friends or relationships, so it all like kind of amalgamates into this whole like, I don't know, when I see PTSD I think icky gicky.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like very goopy, if that makes sense, and it just spreads into the whole time of your life.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So how do you try to cope with PTSD? Is it similar to anxiety, or do you cope in a different way?
I cope in a different way because PTSD is so much more complex than anxiety, in my opinion at least.
Yeah.
So PTSD, for me, I go to psychotherapy. Like, I have like a therapist with like 50 years of experience.
Mm-hmm.
She's like old, but she's like so good. And I needed this because like when I was going through so many therapists, and they would always like tell me no, I can't do this, or like they would be retiring or something, they would just drop me. So when my case manager was searching for a new therapist for me, they're like, we're sending you to this person, and they are so accommodating and so like, they understand trauma to a deep level, especially to like people who are born women, and they worked at they worked at like many like facilities for like women who got assaulted, or you know, all that stuff, so they have experience with like sexual trauma, or even just like regular, like, I don't think they wouldn't have much, I don't know if, well, they have like multiple people, they 50 years experience, of course. So they've met a whole laundry list of people, so like whole like CVS receipt of people, and but and a lot of my trauma stems from thinking I'm bad or that I'm good. It's very black and white thinking, so that's another cognitive distortion. So I think very in like, there's no middle ground, so it's very like bad or good and nothing in the middle. So I have to like, I put myself in boxes for no reason. So if I do something, I'm like, I'm bad, that's horrible, why did I do that, and I think I'm such a bad person now, I should just like, you know, it's very like scary, because like when your mind is like taken over by this PTSD, it's like, man, I wish I could just like go back in time and like not do that or not get in that situation. It's very like sad that, you know, we can't go back in time, because whatever happens in the past, it's cemented in there, but it doesn't define you. It's more that it built you up, but it didn't define you. Like, you are who you are because you are now, I guess. So
how do you think we could improve at handling such PTSD and whatnot in general or personally?
like, can you explain that question? I'm sorry.
Like, how can we improve at handling it?
Okay, like coping mechanisms, or like...
Yeah, like general handling it, like coping with it.
Oh, okay. It's hard because like PTSD is so complex to me.
Yeah.
Oops. It's very complex to me, so I think that how I help myself from PTSD is a lot of psychotherapy. So DBT, a lot of DBT. So DBT is dialectical behavioral therapy, and it is my favorite form of therapy because it's so rule based. And it's like all straightforward. No metaphorical shit. It's like, do this, you'll get that. It's very like 1 + 1 = 2 type of therapy. So yeah, like one of my favorite is obviously grounding, but also like mindfulness. Mindfulness is kind of like being aware of your surroundings. Same thing with grounding. It's similar to grounding in a way that it's like mindfulness is just a part of grounding. So mindfulness is like seeing what's around you and like identifying like you're here and now, instead of like focusing on like grounding is kind of like the same thing, but it's like grounding is more like, I don't know how I describe it, is like physical. Grounding is like physical. It's like your butt on the chair, your feet on the ground. Like that's kind of like how I see it. Like the feeling of coldness in the air. It's very like physical, but in the mindfulness, it's more like I'm here in the present at like 2025, or like I'm here in the present on this Monday morning, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's very grounding and mindfulness is very important. That's how I help myself. So yeah.
So how can we raise awareness for PTSD?
Again, I'd still say media because it's like so digestible. It's so digestible. So like there's a lot of PTSD like media, but it's always about military people for some reason. Like it's so much more than that. It can be about anything and in different levels. There's like levels in PTSD, which is like acute PTSD, PTSD, CPTSD, and then there's like a bunch of dissociative disorders after that. But in regards to PTSD, it's more if you want to make media about PTSD, make it something that people can relate to, instead of like going to the army or like going to the military. That's very like niche. If you put in media that's more like I got bullied in high school and now I can't go to school anymore, that is something more relatable than going to the military, because that's only relatable to like adults. But if you're and mostly men, but if you align that more with the general media, like children or like people who've gone to school, which almost everybody, it's very specific and it's more broad, if that makes sense. So if you're making media about PTSD, make it more relatable to the audience, and it helps kind of like rework how society thinks of PTSD. It's not just military, it's not just like horrible, horrendous things. It can be something as simple as I got bullied in high school and now I can't go to school anymore. So
yeah, that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
I got bullied in middle school, and then I had to do online school for all of high school.
Yeah, I did online school on and off in high school for like the first 2 years of high school, and then I slowly but barely came back to high school. So it was very like on and off, but I still graduated, so
that's good.
Whatever. Yeah.
So how can we be safe and supported when dealing with PTSD?
Okay, this is really important because safety in anxiety is different from safety in PTSD, because PTSD is like way different, because it's like way worse, in my opinion at least. Because when it's like catastrophizing to the max, like it's like when you're in a panic attack, it's like, my god, I'm gonna die. Like I'm going to like die from this like panic attack, because it's like you're so tense, you think your brain is like going haywire, and you're sweating, you're clammy, you're tense, you're like your neck hurts or something. Like that's how I get it. But you know, at some point I even got like I had dizziness from like for a while. I think it's called vertigo. Yeah, I got vertigo for a while because of how like anxious and like PTSD like affecting me. So yeah, it's like how do you stay safe with PTSD? Is because it's a very good question, because it's lots of people do a lot of things in PTSD. It's very complex, as I said before. So when I'm in my PTSD, I get very like, I get suicidal ideation pretty fast. And it leads to, like, as I said, if you're thinking that, you might feel that, and then you might act on it. So it's like very dangerous how that goes on. How I stay safe is literally like grounding, mindfulness, and asking for help. Because like when you're stuck in PTSD, you need to go ask for help. Like, it's mandatory at this point, because PTSD is like, at its worst, it's like bad. But like everyday flashbacks are not gonna be in contrast to how media portrays it, like military men going outside after hearing like a car beep, and then they're like freaking out outside after in their pajamas and stuff like that, because I've seen that in the show and I was like, what the hell? It's not that. For me, it's more like just like dissociating and just like thinking of the situation, and then affects your whole day, because of how like distraught that feeling is, or that thought is, and how it makes you feel afterwards. So if I get a nightmare and like first thing in the morning, I end up like having a bad day the whole day. Like, I cannot function for like the whole day if I have a nightmare. So that's why PTSD is like so important to like stay safe about, especially in action, because people who have PTSD are not in the present, and it's good to ground people during that time they're having a panic attack or something. But mine in their mind, it's very, I don't know what to call it. It's like, in their mind, you have to like be a second brain, as I said with anxiety. But yeah.
And what PTSD triggers? I guess we kind of talked a little bit about that, but like, I know like it can be very varied because it depends on the individual.
Yeah. My specific triggers can be so like not even like, they're so odd. Like, they can be as odd as like cold water on your skin, or like seeing red, or like seeing like a certain object, or hearing a certain word, or a certain situation pops up again, or it's so like meticulous. Like, PTSD is so evil in a way that's like, you're gonna see this one object multiple times, and you're gonna get traumatized by it multiple times, and it's just gonna keep happening to you over and over again until you learn how. So it's very like, it's like a middle finger to the face, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I had an experience. I'm not sure if it was like an anxious trigger or a PTSD trigger. I think it could have also been a depressive trigger. I'm not sure exactly what it was. I know you were there. I think it was in one of our previous servers. There was this person who had been like apologizing profusely about something and was kind of going in a spiral. So I pointed it out that, hey, I think you're spiraling, and that triggered them really badly. So sometimes the word choices can also be dangerous, but it's also it depends on the person, like how well you know them, to be careful about that.
Yeah, I definitely remember that situation, and yeah, I think that people's triggers are very specific to them, because everyone's different and everyone's individual people. So when I see that another person has different triggers than me, it's like, okay, how can I work around that? How can I, like, how am I gonna learn from this situation? How can I improve? And that is kind of like how I would shape good etiquette, I guess, if you're like around a PTSD person. Like, a person with PTSD is like, sometimes you gotta know in order to I mean, it's hard for them to talk about it. Like, one of the biggest steps in PTSD is like talking about it, because like that's like when I was in residential, it took me like a whole month and a half to like, with play therapy of all things, to like get myself to talk about it. I did play therapy because I was so emotionless. I was like dissociating to the max. Like, it was like I was not thinking, I was not speaking, I was not feeling. So when I was in residential, they'd make me do like blow bubbles, or well, I talk about something. So they make me do something really fun, and then they'd like make me talk about it in the middle of it. And then if I break down, then they like help me with that. But if I am able to talk about it, it's like a score. So
Yeah.
yeah. That's just one of the therapy things I went through. But it's very play therapy is so interesting, because I have a friend who's going through it, and it's like they're like so embarrassed about it. They have some age regression stuff with them, so it's like it's very trauma based age regression. It's like if they're traumatized, they have to age regress, because like it's something that they deal with, right?
Yeah.
I don't know much about it, so yeah, but their PTSD makes them age regress, so I don't know. That's another thing that can happen.
And we had a chat. Okay, PTSD is a demon itself. It sucks, but it definitely changed who I am now. That's why I take care of people the way I do, so I don't have to worry about that trauma again, thanks to my PTSD. Would you like to talk about that a little more, or would you like to...
People pleasing in regards to like taking care of people the way I do is like that quote. That is so crazy, because like I have the same thing. I'm an older sibling, so taking care of people is like my whole shtick. I'm always taking care of my little brother, even if he doesn't even like. He's in my mind. He's in my like life. He needs to be safe, because that's one of my trauma things. Like, if my dad goes haywire or something like that and does something stupid, I step in. I take the brunt of it for me, and then it's kind of like that people pleasing in the future. It's like, yeah, okay, Monique, I had the same thing. My dad was a drinker too, so that's what I'm referring to. It's very it's like, man, alcohol is like it's like a thing of itself. It's it's its own beast. It's like substances are so tough on like people around you. It's like it's its own like monster, because like it makes people do things that they don't want to do, but it's also their choice to drink that thing. So
yeah, it's
but...
very complicated. I know, like, for instance, my dad struggles with addiction. He has a very addictive personality, so it's very easy for him to get addicted to stuff. It started with cigarettes, and now it's drinking at the same time. So it's very difficult to handle.
Yeah.
I know for me, it caused a lot of anger and whatnot, because I never understood why he would do that. And like I would get angry at him, and because he would also do stupid things too. So yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, people pleasing is like its own thing too, because like people pleasing is so dangerous in its own way, and I've seen so many people fall for like the shittiest people, and in their traps they're like, yeah, this is fine as long as I'm making them happy. Like, you're not happy, so like get out of there, you know. People pleasing is so, man, I wish I wasn't a people pleaser.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna end here. Thank you guys so much for watching. As usual, all my links are under exclamation point links. That's exclamation point LNKS. So you can find my Discord as well as the Vtubers Discord, which both of us are a part of. You could also find, I believe, not on Twitch, but on YouTube you could find Snokpuk. So please make sure to check them out, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday. We have another health stream on Wednesday featuring another person, so thank you guys, and yeah, so
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah, thank you for coming. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Bye bye.
Bye bye.